This is the third and final short video that goes along with finding the equation of a line. So we're going to find the equation of a line if you're given 2 points. That's our last piece here. First, our instructions are to determine the equation for this data. Sierra and her mother record their ages and their heart rates as seen in the chart below when performing the same exercise. So here are their ages. Sierra is 20, her mother is 45. And their heart rates are here when they're performing the same exercise. Determine the equation of the line that connects these pieces of information, which compares a person's age to their heart rate. So we don't have to graph it, but we're trying to figure out the equation that would put these two pieces of information together. But I don't have any coordinates here. In all of our previous examples, we had some coordinates to work with. I don't here. But here's your clue. First, write out these data pieces as coordinates. So we're going to create our own coordinates because we weren't given any. So let's do that first. So age and heart rate. One of them will be our X and one of them will be our Y. How do we decide? Remember the independent variable, that's your X. Independent, that's usually X. And if you have a choice of anything and time, then you're going to pick time. So in this case, age is like time, it's number of years, right? So this is going to be our X. And usually when you're given a chart, the first set of data, the first column is your X and your second column is your Y. So I want to put these into coordinate. So we're going to talk about Sierra's coordinate first. Sierra is the daughter. So Sierra's coordinate is when she's 20 years old and she's doing this exercise, her heart rate's 138 beats per minute. Whereas her mother is 45 and her heart rate is 123 beats per minute. So now we have coordinates. And that's the whole topic for this one, is when you're given 2 points, how do you get the equation when you're given 2 points? In all of our other ones, y equals mx plus b, everything we've done in the other 2 parts, we were always given m. And that's always the first step, is always to find m. We need to find m, that's always what we want to do first. So how do we do that here? Well, we go back to that slope formula from earlier on. Let me see if I can scroll back through all this stuff here. Yes, there it is. There's the slope formula we talked about in the first video. That slope formula there, that's the one that we're going to use. Let me go back through. Okay, the slope formula. Write it down and you'll need to memorize it. Slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And how do we decide which one is first and which one is second? Remember I said you kind of imagine a wall going across? Well, you look at whatever of the first numbers is smaller. So 20 is going to be our x1, and that'll be our first, that's our smallest number in this column. So 45 is our x2. The next numbers are our y's, and the y1 goes with whatever the x1, y2 goes with the x2. So let's sub into the formula. y2 is 123 minus y1 is 138 over x2 is 45 minus x1 is 20. So you can get out your calculators if you want to get this next step. Now I'm kind of out of room, so I'm going to draw a line up here like this. My m is equal to 123 minus 138 is going to be a negative 15. And in the denominator, 45 minus 20, that's a 25. We always have to reduce the fraction, unless the question tells us we can use decimals, which this one doesn't. I can't use decimals, so I'm going to reduce the fraction. I'm going to divide both pieces by, this is supposed to be a pencil I'm writing with here, it doesn't really look like a pencil. Divide both sides by, divide top and bottom by 5. That doesn't look like a pencil. Divide by 5. So divide them by 5, and we get negative 3 over 5. That's in lowest terms. So there's my slope. So up in this equation way up here, I now have a value for m. My m is negative 3/5. So remember the m, we swap that out with a number. And the b, we also need to put a number. We need to replace b with a number. So how do I find b? And we did b up here in these previous questions here. How do we find b? So you can look back through that if you want, but to find b, let me write the steps out here. So we found find m, so I'm just going to expand on that. Find m using the formula. That was our first step. Find m using the formula. Now our second step, this was number 1. Step number 2 is to find b. To find b by subbing in a coordinate. And you can pick whatever coordinate you like, because we have 2 this time. This is the first time we've had 2 by subbing in a coordinate. In the other questions we've only had 1. We've had no choice which one to sub in, but here we have 2. So here's my 2 coordinates. Which one do you like better? I usually pick the smaller one, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to sub in this coordinate right here. So my equation that I have so far is y equals -3/5 x plus b. Now I'm going to sub this point in for x and y. The y value is 138 equals -3/5, and the x value is 20 plus b. So I have 138 equals, now remember this is over an invisible 1, and we multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom. So -3 times 20 is -60, that'll be our numerator. Our denominator will be 5, we're multiplying straight across the bottom. 5 times 1 is 5 plus b. So -60 over 5, we can reduce that, and you can use your calculator if you need to, but hopefully know your 12 times tables, and you know that that is equal to 12, but of course it's a -12 plus b. And sometimes students say, well, can I reduce a fraction later? But this is harder to work with. I'd much rather, I need to bring the 12 over now, right? I'd much rather add 12 to bring add 12 to both sides to bring it over rather than 60 over 5. So add 12 to both sides, add 12 to both sides. And I get 150 equals b. So now I have my b value. I already got the m value. So now I can go ahead and write the equation of the line. The equation of the line is y equals, remember what our m was? We got that way over here. -3/5 x plus 150. It seemed to freeze there for a second. Hopefully we didn't lose too much. So there's the equation of our line, -3/5 x plus 150. That is the equation that connects the pieces of information which compare a person's age to their heart rate. So the summary of the 3 steps for finding the equation of a line. So you've done all 3 parts now. First, find the slope. And you can either count it out on the graph like we did in part 1, or use the new formula. So that's step 1, is to find m. Second is to find the y-intercept. That's step 2 here. Find the y-intercept. You can either look on the graph if you have a graph to look at, or you sub in a coordinate into x and y, right? Sub in a coordinate into x and y, and then you solve for b. So when you're all done that, you should have b isolated. The second step is the hardest. Look at all the math we had to do in the second step compared to the first step. So the first step usually isn't as difficult. A lot of times you're even given the slope. And then the last thing you do is write out the equation in y equals mx plus b form. So that's what I did here. I've got my equation written out. Can you perform, well, let me write the equation, sorry. Can I perform all these 3 steps above? So are you pretty good with these 3 steps? So you've got some questions that I'll give you to work on later. But if you don't have access to those questions, I'm sure you can find some questions and practice, practice, practice.